color, or anatomical harness. Friends, hello everyone! We have some wonderful news. Finally, we have created our own brand of professional dog ammunition. Why did this happen? Because most manufacturers of ammunition are betting on design, color and style, and as a result, we have many dogs dressed in a cute but very dangerous ammunition. You have to ask people to buy something more practical, but sometimes they can't do it the first time. That's why we came up with the idea to cover the needs of dog owners in high quality, reliable and practical ammunition. The idea is to weed out everything impractical, dangerous and leave only functional goods. Therefore, the next few videos will be on the topic of ammunition, what is useful, what is not useful, why we think so and not otherwise. By the way, in the previous video I shared with you my thoughts about electric collars, so be sure to watch it if you haven't made it yet. Well, in this video I will help you figure out what is best for your dog, collar or anatomical harness. Some people believe that an ordinary collar is not humane and that it can harm your dog's health. Is this true? And where did this point of view come from? In fact, it is difficult for me to count the number of dogs of different breeds, ages, sizes and sexes that I have trained, individual and group, probably thousands. And there are probably millions of viewers and acquaintances all over the world, but I have never heard of a case where a dog was injured by a collar. Dogs are bitten by ticks, snakes, dogs swallow various objects, dogs cut their paws, fall, drown. But I have never heard of a dog having problems with its neck or larynx because it was wearing a collar. Over time, I began to meet this point of view more and more often. I called familiar and well-known veterinarians and asked them the question that bothered me. Have they met dogs that were injured by collars? Yes, they met, but we were talking about collars that were put on puppies and not taken off for months or even years. In this case, the dog grows and the collar does not, and it begins to cut the skin, causing inflammation of the skin and purulent wounds. Chained dogs can also suffer from a collar, those who sit in the yard all their lives and no one ever lets them go. They go crazy trying to break free from the chain and rub their necks to bloody wounds. But is the collar to blame for this? Absolutely not. In these cases, human irresponsibility is to blame. Opponents of collars also argue that a dog in a collar pulls the leash, chokes and wheezes, but not in harness. But dogs whose ammunition is not selected correctly do wheeze, and in general, let's start with the fact that my dogs and the dogs I help to train do not pull or wheeze. It reminds me a lot of the situation when a muzzle is used to prevent a dog from picking up food from the floor. Likewise, a harness so that the dog does not wheeze. That is, it is much easier for a person to choose a tool that will solve the problem instead of taking responsibility for training the dog. But that's not all. Marketing played not the last role in this myth. Smart people who wanted to make money understood that most dogs in the world wear collars, and it is very easy to spread information, as if earlier people simply had no idea about the harm from a collar. That's why they used it, and now everyone should understand that the collar is dangerous, so you need to buy a harness. It is from us that you can buy a super safety harness at the best price. The dog's neck is very strong. The dog can hang and keep the weight of its body on the mouth and neck, while straining it by breathing and trying to tear off a piece of what it is hanging on. The dog's neck is a spine completely covered with a strong layer of muscles, and if a person is not an idiot, he is unlikely to harm a dog with an ordinary collar. Let's talk a little about the pros and cons of a collar and harness. Collar Pro. Price. A collar is always cheaper than a harness. Pro. Low weight and simple design. The collar will be 2 or 3 times smaller and lighter than the harness. Pro. Ease of putting on and taking off. The collar can be simply thrown over the head or fastened with one fastener. In the case of our magnetic black, it closes itself. Everything is a little more difficult with the harness. Pro. The collar has a small area of contact with the skin, and the harness has a lot of contact, and if the wool is stuffed into the lining, the dog's whole body itches. Pro. The dog very well understands the direction of influence on it by the collar. During training, we practice various signals that we can give the dog through the leash and collar. Depending on the direction, rhythm, and force of influence, it is easier for the dog to understand exactly what the master wants from it. Some types of harnesses are poorly designed and interfere with the dog's movement, restraining important muscles and rubbing the skin. And what are the advantages of a harness? The harness is very effective when we need the dog pulled for a long time. For example, in dog trail racing or dog mushing, where dogs pull sleds, or during defense training. The contact with the dog's body is large, nothing presses it, so it can make every effort to achieve its goal. Also, a harness is necessary when the dog's neck is anatomically thicker than its head. In this case, the collar may simply fall off. And the last case is the extra small breeds of dogs. They are very fragile, they often break something, and it is not very difficult to imagine what will happen, say, when a runner gets caught on the leash of the toy terrier who was wearing a collar, standing by himself and sniffing grass. As for me, I get a special pleasure when my dogs run free without a leash and without a collar. And ammunition should be chosen not for fashion and style, but for necessity. For defense, you can't do without a harness. If you have to walk around town, I'll choose a collar because it's simple and light. And in everyday life, my dogs don't wear anything at all. There is no such thing as good or bad ammunition. Ammunition is a tool. It should be chosen qualitatively, depending on your needs.